Hey folks, is it time to be dabbling down into those recovery plays, those airlines so many of you have been chattering about in that comment section? In particular, we're going to be talking about Air Canada today. Some of the concerns I have, hopefully to prevent you lemmings from falling off a cliff, because there's a thesis floating around out there right now that has to do with these Google Trends. So in the clarity of my transparency and all the wonderful homework I present, hit that like button, because the current strategy that I'm hearing from people is, hey guys, people going to be going nuts. We can all feel it. There's a vibe going on. We're all ready to get out on the other side of this pandemic, and these trends are proving it across the world. Just take a look at this with travel specifically. On Google Trends right now, guys, going into the pandemic, there was a huge spike of people concerned about traveling, booking cancellations, and then it fell off a cliff. And it's currently now more popular in an off season of travel than it was going into the pandemic. So there's clearly a surge oncoming right now, and these trends go up across the board for people looking up resorts and flights. And this leads to the curiosity as an investment strategy, is it worth buying some of these companies like Air Canada that are currently trading down 49.7% from the all-time high, $9 billion market cap? Could that double on the recent upcoming quarters where we know there's going to be a lot of demand and sales going on? Well, I'm going to go over a lot of the red flags and really deep dive down into this, and probably a reason that Warren Buffett and many investors have been relatively avoiding the airline industry. And let's get right into this, folks, by talking about, first of all, oil. Oil has been spiking pretty dramatically, and this isn't even with the economy fully open and people out traveling yet. And it is likely we're going to see a continued demand for the oil sector. And if that drives the continued cost of oil up, that also costs more for the airlines to travel, which means usually that's when we talk about hyperinflation. But in the near term, as this thing rallies up, I think it will be relatively short-lived, just for the raw reason things will eventually level off and we are heading back into a work-home economy. And this is going to hinder the airlines as well, because obviously if more people are working from home like I am, I'm not traveling nearly like I was, not consuming as much oil. We're moving to electric vehicles. And when you look at airlines here, guys, we don't have to do business meetings traveling across the world anymore. We got things like Zoom. I think this is going to continue to reflect in some problems for the airline industry. It's going to cause some short-term volatility across the board, in my opinion, because we're in this moment of hyperinflation. People are crazy and want to get out, but we're heading into a new digital era. I don't know. It's going to be really confusing. So you gotta understand the risks that are kind of associated with this, folks. Let's talk about those cheap flights. Air Canada, many of the travel industry resorts, they were selling flights and vacations for dirt cheap, even if you were booking them 2 or 3 years out, because they needed that cash real bad. Heck, we took advantage of it. I booked a Vegas trip here, guys, for like literally 50% off, which was just insane. And I'm sure many people are starting to wake up and gobble up whatever is left out there for deals. But this company still has to fulfill all those cheap bookings that were booked relatively down the road. They likely might not be making the highest margins, and we're just using that capital to get them through the short-term, pain. And we're going to explain how much pain that really was, because I don't think people truly appreciate it. But there's a few more things I want to talk about here that most people don't understand either. Air Canada doesn't offer first-class cabins. They just offer business class. And why is this significant? Well, most of the airlines made the vast majority of their money off first class travel. But the problem is the first class travel costs so much that most people are finding it's funner just to rent private jets, because private jets can be rented for anywhere from like $2,000 to $10,000 per billable flight hour, which I think is a little exaggerated, because most people will rent these with their friends, or they'll just kind of partner it off with a bunch of people that need to go certain places. And you can end up paying anywhere from $700 to $1,200 to get to where you need to go and back on a private jet, which is pretty incredible. And I think people enjoy that more, less BS going through, customs to airport stuff in coach flight. So, I mean, it's just, this is, I think, the new era of travel for a lot of people, and the demand for private flights are just exploding right now. And if that wasn't enough here, folks, I mean, let's talk about the losses, because let's see how much Air Canada was able to make on a good year. I mean, on a good year, hey, $2 billion in 2017, $37 million in 2018, $1.48 billion in 2019, and then they lost $4.6 billion in 2020. The amount of money they lost was pretty much more money than they made in the last, 3 years combined. And if that even wasn't worse, guys, in Q1 of 2021, they lost literally like an entire year's worth of earnings capability. And if you just backtrack this, look at this: $1 billion a quarter, $1 billion on that quarter, $685 million on this quarter, $1.7 billion on this quarter. You know how many years they have to work to even get those earning capabilities back with all of the headwinds we just discussed? I literally think these things are a decade out from where they used to be, if they will ever even be able to get back there without finding some new way of either generating more income, seeing more demand in travel, which I don't know, guys. This is just a weird moment for the airline industry, and it is not a good moment and not something that I am particularly fond of for all of these reasons combined, folks, which I want to pass this question off to you guys, because if I was buying into some travel stocks right now, recovery stocks, and I've made my picks, they're doing phenomenal. My largest pick was a recovery stock, and it was a REIT, a mall REIT for that matter, and a retail REIT for that matter, which is insanely nuts to most people. And even Kevin O'Leary's like, why would anyone be buying retail? Well, I did, and it's performing exceptionally well, being RioCan, another Canadian favorite of mine. But even in that, I would be more excited to pick up something like the resorts, the hotels. I mean, anything other than the airlines right now with what's probably going to happen. So I really want to know what you think in that comment section below. And just a quick fun video today. So stay cool, stay awesome, and I look forward to catching you tomorrow.